Welcome to the Healthy Aging Pod. I'm Kelly Yee. You can follow me on Instagram at Kelly Yee Yoga or subscribe to my YouTube channel at Avatar Yoga. In partnership with EPC Canada, we are excited to bring you our Healthy Aging webcast series. Today, we are going to discuss sleep for healthy aging and address the importance of sleep during this current global crisis. Our guest today is Dr. Glenn Landry, a sleep coach and researcher. Dr. Landry holds a PhD and postdoctorate. He has transitioned the science of sleep into practical interventions to help people improve their physical and mental health through better sleep quality. Dr. Landry has over 20 years of research knowledge in circadian rhythms and sleep related to aging and cognition. Hello and welcome, Dr. Landry. Thank you so much for being here. So, Dr. Landry, how did you decide to focus your research on sleep and aging?
As a teen, I wasn't able to sleep. And so my fascination with sleep deprivation and, how long you could go without sleep and whether or not we really needed sleep or how much sleep we needed. That was in the early years. I was really interested in about that. And then in my university days, I came across Dr. Ralph Misselberger. He's a world-renowned expert, and he changed my life, honestly, because in joining his lab, I learned all about circadian rhythms and sleep, and learned how to take control of my sleep. And since then, I've been able to manage my sleep much, much better than I had before in the years previously. And then the second sort of life-changing moment was really when we have a family history of Alzheimer's. My grandfather had Alzheimer's disease, and in part of the caregiver time with my grandfather, I learned that sleep changes dramatically, not only in Alzheimer's disease, but as a normal course of aging. And so that really began my journey into learning about sleep health, and promoting sleep health in order to promote healthy aging.
Right. So, based on the research, is there an optimal amount of sleep time for healthy aging? And then the follow-up to that is actually, what is sleep quality? What does that even mean?
The first piece that we really need to understand is that no two days are the same. So when we talk about how much sleep a person needs, really your sleep need is dependent on what your days have been like and what your prior sleep history has been like. So that has a profound impact on the kind of sleep that we need. The other thing to consider is that it's not just the amount of time we spent sleeping that determines how much sleep we got. We have to understand that there's a minimum number of hours of sleep that we need each night. And, the consensus on this, world experts agree that, we need at least 7 to 9 hours of actual sleep each night. Key point there is that it's actual sleep. When we go to bed and, we shut our eyes and then in the morning, say we wake up 8 hours later, it doesn't mean that we got 8 hours of sleep, for example. Most people will have awakenings throughout the night. And so when we talk about actual sleep, we're really talking about how much sleep we were able to sustain throughout the night. And more importantly than that is that the staging of our sleep. So we go through light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep. All of these different stages make up what we call sleep architecture. And it is the staging of sleep that's as important or more important than just the number of hours of sleep that we get. So we need to consider that. And so that's what's really lost in most people's understanding of sleep health.
Right. So, I've heard, and this is based on some of the research that I've done as well, that, definitely as we age, our hours of sleep tend to decrease. And I also have many clients as well that I have clients that I work with from a yoga perspective, and they vary in ages, but definitely I've heard from many that are, they've said that they've started in their mid 30s to like, you know, early 40s where their sleep started getting worse. They felt like it was getting worse and they weren't able to sleep as long. So can you talk to that a little? Is, the hours of sleep, is that okay for us to, as we age, for hours of sleep to decrease, or does that still apply to, having that 7 to 9 hours?
That's a really important question. So let's start with debunking a myth first. So the myth that I'm talking about here is the notion that as we get older, we need less sleep. That's absolutely not true. We need the same sleep as a younger adult would in terms of, let's say, from the age of 30 plus. So we can look at older adults as 30 to 50 are the young older adults, 50 to 70 are the middle-aged older adults, and 70 plus are the older adults, the winners, if you will. So the key here is that our sleep need, again, the consensus science is that we need at least 7 to 9 hours of actual sleep each night. And that need isn't different for a 30-year-old versus a 70-year-old. We all need the 7 to 9 hours sleep each night. But the key point here is that as we get older, our sleep health, our sleep quality changes as a normal course of aging. And so that's really the disconnect, if you will, is that we know it's normal for sleep to change as we get older, but that doesn't mean that it's healthy for sleep to have changed. And so a key point there is that there are things that we can do to improve our sleep health as we get older, to counteract the age effects, if you will. And that's really been the focus of both my research and in private practice, my sleep coaching is working with older adults to promote their sleep health.
Okay.
So just to expand on that, there are 3 real key differences as we get older. So the first thing is that older adults have difficulty sustaining sleep through the night. And a key difference is that after having fallen asleep and sleeping for about 3 to 4 hours, they tend to wake up far more often than they did when they were younger. And those awakenings tend to last longer. So what I'm saying is that their sleep window gets more fragmented as we age. And those fragmentations are focused in the back half of the sleep window predominantly. So what ends up happening is people wake up as they get older, they tend to wake up and they have difficulty getting back to sleep. And so they go through this process of thinking, well, I guess I've had enough sleep because I can't fall back to sleep. And so they end up waking up earlier and earlier as they get older. And so that's a key change. It's certainly a normal change as we get older, but it need not be an inevitable change. And so that's really what we focus on, is protecting a sleep window, and well, first building the sleep window and then protecting it so that sleep will fill it with the sleep staging that we need, the healthy sleep architecture that I sort of talked about a little bit earlier.
And, I can speak for myself, and more this year, year has been unprecedented for many of us. COVID-19, in addition to that, has an added stress. I've often had, again, same thing, people come to me saying, asking for yoga techniques, right? But they're coming to me asking how can they improve their sleep, and I can give them some yoga poses and yoga things that they should do and meditation techniques, but I think there's more to it. I mean, there must be, right? Then it's just doing a few yoga poses, because it can help them temporarily. It's not I don't think it hasn't been, at least from an ongoing fix for many of my clients and then in these times it's more impactful. So has your experience with this year, have you seen, sleep quality and so the impact surrounding both COVID-19 and the stress of this pandemic?
So what I would do is I break that into two parts. So the first part really answering, the importance of sleep health in these unprecedented times with COVID-19 that you're talking about. So I think there's three things to really focus on. The first is understanding that sleep health is critical to our immune system's response to challenges. And so when we talk about combating COVID-19, sleep health is really the mask we wear from within. When you think of the interventions that we're now using to combat COVID-19, think personal protective equipment and also social distancing, certainly that's going to do its part to reduce our contact rate and have an impact on risk of infection. But that's only half of the equation. The other half is looking at sleep health and actually promoting healthy sleep in our population so that we can reduce the risk of infection. And the way that works is, and this is actually a profound difference that sleep health can make, but we can improve our immune system's response to the challenge that it faces in terms of COVID-19 so that it decreases our risk of infection. To give you some examples here, we could expect if you're only getting about 6 hours of sleep each night instead of the 7 that you really need, actual sleep again here. If that's the case and we were to take you and get you from 6 to 7 hours actual, we can expect you to increase your immune system's response by up to 20% in terms of decreasing the risk of infection. The other factor is looking at the recovery rate. Let's say that you are, unfortunate enough to not only be exposed to COVID-19, but then actually convert and get COVID yourself. In that case, your prior sleep health in the weeks that preceded that exposure can have a profound impact on your ability to recover and what the outcome looks like in terms of how much of an impact COVID has for you. We know that there's a lot of variability in each person's experience of COVID-19 once they get it. Some people are obviously devastated in terms of health, and it unfortunately has been fatal in too many cases. But for others, their experience is less than that, and that they are, they certainly feel very sick, but they're able to recover and they're able to have less of a long-term response from COVID-19. Another point on that is that we know that COVID can have lasting impacts in terms of health impairments in the future. So this experience differs dramatically. And a lot of that has to do with how healthy you are at the time that you get COVID-19. And sleep health is a real key factor in driving that. I'm not saying that sleep health is everything. I'm just saying it's a tool that we have in our toolkit to combat COVID-19. So we really want to look at that. And then the third factor that I want to really bring home here is that in addition to decreasing our risk of infection and actually increasing our recovery rate, when we're looking at the vaccine that we're all very eagerly anticipating here in the new year, the science is very clear on this. This is consensus science now, that your sleep health in advance of getting a vaccine has a profound impact on that vaccine efficacy. So if your immune system is healthy, you've had great sleep health in advance of of getting the vaccine, you will actually be able to use that vaccine, your immune system, will be able to use that vaccine better and produce stronger and more plentiful antibodies to COVID-19. So really, sleep health is always something that's important for us to manage. But when we're talking about COVID-19 and the environment that we live in now, it's never been more important to address sleep health. So I think that's, a critical factor. And then this second part of the question, there's been no doubt that COVID-19 has actually had an adverse impact on people's sleep health. I see that, and you can see it in the media that people are getting less sleep, and that's actually counterintuitive when you see that people are actually spending more time at home. You could ask the question, well, people are at more time at home, less time working, perhaps less time doing things socially. So you would think that they would have more time to sleep. So you'd think they'd be sleeping better. And the reality is probably very different than that. The reality is that while we have more opportunity for sleep, we're less prepared for sleep. There's a number of things that we can do to promote sleep health, but none more impactful than making sure that our brain and our body is ready for sleep when we give it the opportunity to sleep. And I think that's the real challenge. And to be clear, this goes well beyond just simple sleep hygiene and, making sure that you didn't drink heavily before going to bed. I mean, obviously those are factors, but we're talking about something, circadian rhythms and circadian regulation. And so in order to answer that question, you really have to address, well, what are circadian rhythms? They're daily biological rhythms that drive, let's say, daytime physiology, biology, and behavior, and nighttime physiology, biology, and behavior. And the key here is to make sure that we keep our days day and our nights night. We have to keep them separate in time because they're incompatible processes. And so to promote strong sleep health, we need to be very good at making sure that our brain and our body is ready for sleep at night, telling our brain and body that this is definitely night and this is a time for sleep. And that in the current environment that we live in, that's gotten worse for us. Sleep's the first thing we sacrifice to meet the growing demands of work, family, and social life balance. And now under these COVID times, we spend a lot of time at home and less time, active and doing things. So we're more sedentary during the day. We're getting a ton of electronics exposure or blue light exposure at night, and our meal times are, impacted. So there's a lot that happens. And so what's really happening is we're going further and further away from what we evolved to promote the best health or best human performance and health. And so those are factors that are driving, poor sleep in these uncertain times. Not the only factors, but some of the factors.
Right. I love how you're addressing the fact that, sleep's a tool, right? And we all know that sleep is fundamental to our well-being. But there's so many things that we know with regards to, physical activity, mental health, and sleep. These are things that we know that are fundamental to our overall health and well-being. And these are all tools that, we want people to sort of recognize that it helps to improve your quality of life. Of course, health is such an important factor in our overall well-being and our lifestyle. And of course, as we age, it's even more powerful and impactful. I would like you to kind of reiterate just stress again the point that you made with regards to, good sleep quality helps to build up our immune system and enables us to, receive and sustain the antibodies of vaccines. And it's not just with COVID-19 vaccine, I'm going to guess. It's for, I'm going to guess other vaccines. And we know that, sleep is important to maintain our immunity, through the flu and cold season. So can you kind of reiterate that again, just so that we can really sort of sink this into the audience, if they're, for those that are listening in?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I would say it goes, you're right. It goes beyond just immune system, and it goes beyond just COVID-19. So we're talking about, the simple truth is that our sleep health has an impact on every aspect of human health and performance. We know that if you aren't getting at least 7 hours actual sleep each night, it has an impact on your risk of all manner of diseases. So cancer, type 2 diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, think heart attack and stroke, all of these, dementia, these are all increased. Your risk of interesting point, these are all age-related diseases as well. But your risk of experiencing any of these diseases or having any of these diseases increases as a function of, you know, how healthy your sleep is. If you have poor sleep health, if you are getting, let's say, 6.5 hours, or the truth is it's less than 7. So we know that if you're getting less than 7 hours sleep each night, then you're at much greater risk of dementia, type 2 diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, and also your experience, you know, your mental health. So think anxiety, depression, all of these are impacted as well. I mean, the take home here is that it goes far beyond COVID-19. It has to do with your overall health and performance. And so getting the sleep you need, that at least 7 hours actual each night, is absolutely critical. A key point too that I'd really like to emphasize is that, you know, we mentioned that older adults, that sleep changes as we get older, and those changes begin, you know, they're subtle at first. You begin to notice that you're awakening more often, and that those awakenings last longer each night. And so at first it's a nuisance, and then over time, as this, you know, like this process accelerates, if you will, then it goes beyond just being a nuisance, and it becomes a stressor. And you're aware that you need sleep, you know that you want sleep, you're trying to sleep, but you can't get the sleep. So the key point that I'd like to really emphasize here is that not getting enough sleep can actually be something that drives anxiety and depression. But the key point is that there are things we can do. And so if you are experiencing that, if you're feeling like you're not, you know, you're not getting the sleep you need, and yet you're trying and you've done everything you think you can to do that, I want to, you know, share with your audience that there are things we can do to improve your sleep health. And so it's critical that, you know, you first identify that you're not getting enough sleep, and then, you know, explore ways to address that. And again, I want to emphasize that this very often goes well beyond just simple sleep hygiene. We need to talk about promoting overall sleep health, and in terms of promoting stronger circadian regulation and sleep.
Oh, there, you just said a whole lot, and I have all these like questions in my mind, but we're running out of time. And so I guess my next question is, how would I be able, where would I sign up? Because I mean, some of the stuff you said, I'm like, yeah, I'm putting up my hand because that's me. But, you know, where can we sign up, or at least maybe connect with you to, you know, further discuss how we can actually, you know, interact and figure out what is my circadian rhythm that's going to help me improve my sleep quality.
Thank you for that opportunity. So, I mean, the simple thing you can do is just email me at glenn@elitesleep.ca. So that's Glenn with 2 N's at elitesleep.ca. Or you can go to my website, which is www.elitesleep.ca.
Great. Well, I want to thank you so much, Glenn, for coming out today and speaking with me on this very important topic. And again, to help us all improve, you know, our health and well-being, especially even more so during these just sort of odd times that we're living in. So again, for those of you that would like to get a hold of Dr. Landry, please contact him. You can go to his website at elitesleep.ca. Feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Avatar Yoga for more podcasts or webcasts on healthy aging. Thank you very much, and have a beautiful day.